Hi, welcome back to a new lecture. Previously, we wrote this script and we can execute it using this triangle button and we get 6 as output. So 3 times 2 gives us 6. So what we did here is we wrote the script in a .py file and then we send that script to the interpreter. So we send the entire .py file to the interpreter. But there is another way to run Python code. That is by having the interpreter on demand. Let me demonstrate you what I mean by that. So you have to go to the terminal, to the command line. This is where you execute operating system commands. So I'm on Windows, so I can execute py space -3. If you are on Mac or Linux, you will have to write Python 3.10 or Python 3.9, depending on what version of Python you are using. I'll be using py space -3 and press enter. So that command starts the Python interpreter. Now, the interpreter, as I said, is on demand, which means the interpreter now is waiting for Python code to interpret it. So think of the previous methods as hiring the interpreter on a contract basis. So you send the interpreter the entire script and they send you back the output. But here, the interpreter is an employee, let's say. They are on site and they are waiting for your input. They are listening to you. So what you do is you say items is equal to 3, for example. You write code and you press enter. And the interpreter is listening to you. So it registers the items variable in memory and you can keep writing code. Price is equal to 2, total price is equal to items times price, and if you print total price, you get the output 6, which is the same output as that. Now you're probably wondering when to use one way and when to use the other. So should you code in a Python file or should you code in a Python interactive shell? So this is now known as an interactive shell. So let me answer you that question. But before I answer you, I want to point out the differences between the two ways of coding. The biggest difference is that the code you write in the interactive shell is not saved. So if I exit this shell now, this code will get lost and there's no way to save it. And that takes us to the other point, which is that this way of coding is just for throwaway code. So if you want to just simply test things out quickly, perhaps you want to do some math operations such as addition, multiplication, etc., and you are not interested in creating a reusable program, then this interactive shell is fine to use. It's quicker than having to create a .py file and then writing the code there. So I think I've answered the question. You should use .py files whenever you want to create reusable programs. And you use the Python interactive shell for quick one-liners. So just to write one line, maybe another one in here. So math operations. Now, I want to point out a difference between the two also. Now, another difference you should be aware of is that in the Python interactive shell, you don't need to use a print function. You can just say total price and you get the output. No need to print out total price. However, in a .py file, you have to be very explicit. So if I remove the print function and I execute this program, we will not get any output. So let me execute this program now, but I warn you that we will get an error. So run the program, this is the error. So what happened here? This code is fine, but what's happening is that Visual Studio Code is executing this Windows command inside the Python shell. The Python shell only accepts Python code, but not Windows or Mac operating system commands. So this is a Windows command because it is trying to start the Python program, and it is trying to execute that myprogram.py file. So what you need to do is you need to exit the shell whenever you want to execute a .py file. So if you are in an interactive Python shell, and you know you are whenever you see these three arrows, then you want to do exit with parentheses and press enter, and that will take you back to the operating system shell, the terminal, the command line. That means now you can run your program. So let me press that triangle button, and we didn't get any error. However, there's no output either, as you can see, because as I pointed out earlier, we are not printing out anything in here. So what the interpreter does is it just assigns 3 to items variable. It does the same with price. It calculates the total price, and then here it does nothing. So in order to get output, we need to say print the variable run again, and you get 6. If you want to go back to the Python shell again, write the py-3 command, and you go back to the shell, and you can run code again in here. So I'll go back to the shell, and that's about the Python interactive shell. Thanks for following.